For the record, my name is Henry Santana, at-large City Councilor, and I am the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice. This meeting is being recorded. It is also being live-streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, Files Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ps@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this meeting. Individuals will be called in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. If you are interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison, Cora Montrond, at cora.montrond@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. We are meeting today to discuss all of the City of Boston grants that are administered by the Boston Fire Department. We do have a few grants that are already before the council, but we want to make sure we cover all of the fire department grants today, not just those few. That way, we'll have the information we need for the council to be able to take votes on grants as they each come before the council. The grant dockets already before the council are docket number 0910, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $16,825 in the form of a grant for the FY 2020-2021 Port Security Grant awarded by the Federal Emergency Management Agency to be administered by the Fire Department. The grant will fund and support increased port-wide risk management and protect critical surface transportation infrastructure from acts of terrorism, major disasters, and other emergencies. Docket number 0378, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,125,000 in the form of a grant for FY24 State Training Grant awarded by the Massachusetts Department of Fire Services and to be administered by the Fire Department. The grant will fund the purchase of equipment and supplies and to fund training initiatives for the Boston Fire Training Academy to ensure the department remains current in the firefighting services. Docket number 0377, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,604,014.20 in the form of a grant for the FY24 HAZMAT grant awarded by the Massachusetts Department of Fire Services to be administered by the Fire Department. The grant will fund the needs of hazardous materials response teams as specified in line item 8324-0000 and 8324-0050 of the FY24 General Appropriation Act. The administration has also provided us with a list of 20 grants that the Fire Department is pursuing or has applied for, including 13 that are marked as award accepted, 3 marked as proposal, and 4 marked as application submitted. We'll be discussing these today, as well as any other grants in the pipeline. I want to start by extending my appreciation to our panelists for joining us today. Kevin Coyne, Deputy Commissioner in Administration and Finance of the Boston Fire Department. Bartholola, sorry, I'm mispronouncing that name, but please correct it when you please. Brian Babiche, Deputy Chief Special Operations from the Boston Fire Department, and Gerard Viola, Deputy Chief Training Division for the Boston Fire Department. I also want to say, as Chair of the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, that I truly appreciate the work that you and every member of the Boston Fire Department do for our city every single day of the year. I also like to recognize that today I'm joined by colleagues in order of arrival. Councilor at Large Erin Murphy, Councilor for District 2, Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor for District 3, John Fitzgerald, and Councilor for District 8, Sharon Durkin. We also received a letter of absence from Councilor Enrique Pepin of District 5, which I will now read into the record. Dear Chair Santana, Mr. Clerk, and Council colleagues, Please be advised that I am unable to attend today's Ways and Means Committee hearing to review all of City of Boston's grants administered by the Boston Fire Department, including dockets number 09100378 and 0377. My staff will watch the live stream and report back to me with notes. I will follow up with any additional questions upon reviewing the recording and my staff's notes. Sincerely, Enrique J. Pepin, Boston City Councilor, District 5. I'd like to ask our panelists to provide some basic overview information on all of the grants, and then I'll provide an opportunity for questions and discussion between all of my colleagues and the panelists. To begin, can you please provide us with just a high-level overview of the fire department grants before we dive into specifics on any particular grant? I'd like to ask you to address a few questions specifically. How the grants fit together with each other and other funding sources to ensure our Boston Fire Department is effective and adequately funded. How many grants the fire department has already or will apply to that have or potentially would be awarded in 2024 or 2025, as well as how many more grants there are, if any, from past years that might be outstanding, like the FY 2020-2021 Port Security Grant that just came before the council last week. How many grants have been awarded so far and how many are in the pipeline, and how our grant applications and awards generally compare overall this cycle by comparison to the past couple of years. I will pass it over to our panelists. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Santana. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. A couple little things on the introductions. Chief Shea and Chief Viola, due to some scheduling conflicts, at last minute were unable to attend. They're working on a joint training exercise with some other area municipalities, and they were unable to make it. But I am joined by my colleagues today, Julie Byrne-Devon, who is the Procurement and Grants Manager for the Boston Fire Department. She's really responsible for the fiscal management of the grants, and Shauna Lynch, who is our grants manager and is really managing the procurement of the grant writing of everything that we do. Thank
you for the update.
So I can give you just an overview. I will rely probably on my colleague Julie to give more context. She's kind of in the weeds of all of these things. I see them on a high level, but she's at the hot seat today. So thank her for being here, and I will ask her to rely on this. So the first one is docket number 0910. It's a port security grant. And these funds are specifically used for ballistics protection equipment to support Boston Fire ability to enhance the protection of soft targets, crowded places in and around the Port of Boston, both as a national priority and a priority of the captain of the port. Ballistics protection equipment purchased through this request will be distributed through ASHR-trained fire companies located in strategic locations throughout the city, with a focus on those companies that would respond to and lead companies in the event of an active shooter or other terrorist event in the port. The equipment will support BFD's ability to enhance the protection of soft targets, crowded spaces, both national and in Boston. The BFD currently has 11 active shooter hostile event response teams. When training equipment needs are met, the BFD will first truly integrated responders in the country to ready to respond to an ASHR incident, with ongoing plans to maintain the operability through a new standard developed by the Boston Fire Department. BFD's RTF members are expected to move to the tactical environment and provide rapid triage, assessment, patient treatment and care, dynamic lifts and carries of casualties, as well as patient packaging and extrication. So just the acronyms, ASHR is active shooter. Hostile
event response.
Active shooter, hostile event response.
So do you want to go through grant by grant, the ones that are on the docket first?
Yep, that's perfect, yep.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
So in regards to your question about the late submission, Kevin joined the department in July of last year. I joined the department in August of last year. So we're still wrapping our head around the grants that are awarded to the department. Upon my analysis of an existing port security grant. It was determined that we had been awarded a 20 and a 21 grant that had not gone through the proper channels through the financial system and had not been presented to council. So I spoke with the auditing department, was advised on how to submit those grants through, and that's why you're seeing those grants delayed, so that we're going through the proper channel, not using operating funds, making sure things are allocated to the appropriate grant, the appropriate award, and looking for permission in order to do that. And that was our advisement from auditing, to combine them together and to submit them to council. Both awards in these two situations were to procure ballistic gear for Asher, as Kevin said, which is active shooter hostile event response. So as first responders, sometimes, they're ballistic gear so that if somebody ever has to go into an active shooter, specifically these grants are relative to the captain of the port of the Coast Guard, and any sort of soft target, crowded places is sort of the focus of these funds. So we make requests relative to that, so that our teams, if there are, have to respond to an incident of that nature, are protected with lightweight gear so that they can go in and address, whatever sort of triage or action that they need to take.
Next one.
Next docket.
Next docket is number 0377. And the purpose of this grant, I should read the amount. The purpose of this grant is to fund the City of Boston hazardous material response teams. The grant would fund the needs of the hazardous materials response teams as specified in line item 8324-0000 and 8324-0050 FY General Appropriation Act. The message in order is to expend $1,604,014.20 in the form of a grant awarded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fire Services. The grant would fund the needs of hazardous material response teams as specified in the line. The Department of Fire Services authorized to administer non-discretionary grant funds in accordance with 815 CMR 2.0 and Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2023, the so-called General Appropriation Act, line item 8324-0000 for $1,485,264.40, and line number 8324-0050 in the amount of $118,750. The agreement establishes the terms and conditions of the grant and incorporates the reference to the Commonwealth's terms and conditions. The grantee agrees to comply with the grant agreement and applicable state laws, regulation, policy, and conditions regarding the receipt of the Department of Fire Services grant. This grant is made up of two components. The first one, $118,750, and $1,485,264. The original amount was allocated by the Commonwealth at $237,500, and at the last minute there was a 9C reduction, and the grant was decreased by 50%. So that leaves us with the amount that we're at today. There are 3 DFS grants, Department of Fire Services, Equipment, Hazmat, and Training, that were heard on 2/21/24. The Hazmat and Training grants were referred to the Public Safety Committee, which is why we're here today. Let me just give you just a little bit more. So the overall, the grant is to, am I on the wrong page?
I can-
Yep, can you take it to where I
Sure.
lost my page?
So like Kevin said, this is, there was legislature in 2008 that appropriated funds. These are considered earmarks, but they're treated as grants. So they're awarded by the Department of Fire Services, and they're reimbursable in nature. So we'll speak in a bit about the Training Academy grant, but it follows the same sort of parameters. The hazardous material response team deals with, there's a police grant that has counter weapons of mass destruction, but we have a dedicated hazmat team who is constantly training, doing back to basics, and responding to hazardous materials. We have a large scientific base, hospital base, and the hub of the city. So they're equipped and willing to respond to incidences of that nature. Legislature sort of indicated that that's where these funds should be allocated. It's allocated out of two different appropriations, one of which was cut. So we generally receive two different lines. Of one line, we get $237,500. That was reduced and cut in half to $118,750 for the total of $1.6 million that you're seeing on the council order. These grants have an end date of June 30th, and when we submit for reimbursement under these awards, we are required to give them the vendor name, the item, the reason that it fits within the hazmat response team. For example, they recently procured air conditioning units because we have radiological meters that have to be in temperature controlled areas in order to maintain that equipment. We've calibrated equipment in the past to make sure that it can properly read samples and give, proper diagnostics. They've done trainings where they bring folks in and they do back to basic refreshers so that, they're keeping up with their training. So these funds are only to be used for hazmat response team related expenses. And again, June 30th is the end date. With the only way we've reached out to determine if there can be extensions, and that's required that we reach out to have legislative support in order to do that. And then I'll take it if you'd like. The final docket is 0378, which is the Training Academy earmark. So the purpose of this grant, similar to the hazmat response grant, it's also an earmark that's treated as a grant awarded by the Department of Fire Services to the Boston Fire Department. It's treated as a grant reimbursable in nature. In this instance, Kevin had submitted a request to procure SCBA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus, for the entire department, which was a considerable, about a $7 million cost. And in conversations with budget to use lease purchase, operating funds, they sort of looked at our budget and what we had, and this entire funding allocation. So we are accustomed to receiving $2.25 million. This was cut by 50%, leaving us with $1,125,000. In discussions with budget, those funds were set aside to procure SCBA equipment for the recruits and those that are in the training facility. So on Mood Island, Boston Fire has a training academy where firefighters are cycled through to do the appropriate training that they require to do their job. Rising officer training for folks who are on track to become perhaps a lieutenant or a captain. They facilitate training there. But this money is to be used for training of the entire department and all of the firefighters. So not necessarily a specialized, the way it was explained to me is if somebody goes to a drone training and they come back and they train the entire department on the usage of equipment or what have you, that is eligible under this grant. But if we're sending somebody to a specialized training specifically for them to obtain additional knowledge on firefighting services, that is not applicable. So this is for the maintenance and upkeep of the actual academy and to fund items that benefit all of the department and all of the firefighters and officers within our unit. So those are the three dockets that are at hand. If you'd like me to continue to answer your other questions and talk about some of the grant funds that we have in the pipeline, I can do that, or we can focus on these.
I have some couple
Sure.
follow-up questions here. Then I also want to Acknowledge that we've been joined by District 6 City Councilor Ben Weber, and then also District 1 City Councilor Gabriela Clara Zapata. So thank you, all three, for that overview. Just to clarify on one of the things you just mentioned, for the two grants covering the hazmat response and the training academy where the award amount were cut in half, these are expenses the city has incurred and we're just being reimbursed for less money than previously expected. Is that because the city had fewer qualifying expenses, or has the amount available for reimbursements been reduced?
The amount available, so it was a 9C reduction, so basically the entire legislative line was looked at by the state, and reductions were made. So we're eligible for a reduced amount of expenditures.
Okay. No, thank you. And thank you for addressing the three grants that are ready before the council. I'd like to return to addressing an overview of all the grants before we dig into any more individual grants. As a reminder, I'd really appreciate if you could share some of the high-level information and just kind of cover what the high-level information is, how the grants fit together with each other, and other funding sources to ensure our Boston Fire Department is effective and adequately funded, how many grants the fire department has already or will apply to that have or potentially would be awarded in 2024 or 2025, how many grants have been awarded so far, and how many are in the pipeline, and then how our grant applications and awards generally compare overall this cycle by comparison to the past couple of years. And yeah, so if you can go. Sure.
So the two dockets relative to the earmarks are some of the larger dollar values that are received by the fire department. Those are based on legislator, and the dollar amount is sort of allocated to us. It's not an application process per se. We receive a contract from the state and are given the authority to spend those funds relative to what those earmarks indicate. Another large funding stream that the fire department seeks awards from and currently has awards from is the Assistance for Firefighter grants. So there are three different programs. It's funded by the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is FEMA, and those funds are intended to enhance the safety of the public and firefighters with respect to fire and fire-related hazards. So that's the overarching umbrella. There is an AFG regional grant. There's also, there are three programs, which is the AFG grants, fire prevention and safety grants, and then SAFER grants. So those are sort of the three programs that fall under Assistant for Firefighter grants. And as you said, they sort of touch upon different needs within the department that they see. We currently have Assistant for Firefighter grants that are active. We have also applied for an Assistant for Firefighter grant that is in the pipeline, and we're waiting to hear whether or not we've been awarded those funds. Essentially, the approach that has been taken in the past with those monies, a notice of funding opportunity gets released, and then among Shauna and myself, we also have a grant writer who has been instrumental in sort of keeping things going. A lot of times we will focus on either required equipment that maybe has not been allocated into the operating budget that is needed for the department. For example, the proposal that we have submitted was a request for some snap tight hoses. And again, apologies that the chiefs are not here. They can speak much better to what we've asked for. But generally, the subject matter experts within their departments will tell us where some needs are or what needs to be met so that we can make sure that, one, things are not already funded under the operating budget, and two, if there's a way to use grant funds to get them items that they need. Another current Assistant for Firefighter grant that we have. So they're about 24-month periods for those grants. So sometimes they can overlap, especially if we have to request. We've requested some 6-month no-cost extensions for some of those awards so that we're able to spend them down properly. They have procured treadmills for firefighter safety. Research shows that carrying around all of that equipment can be really taxing on your heart, so it's important to the department that, folks have access to health equipment. That grant has funded a nutritionist for the program to work with some of the firefighters or officers to give them meal plans and work with other officers within the department to maintain their fitness and make sure that, they're as healthy as they can be. Some other successes from our AFG grant, we have funded cancer screening. There have been, some folks who have gone for screenings, and we have been able to catch, we have to maintain HIPAA compliance, but the grant has allowed us the ability to send some folks for screening who may be more at risk based on their job duties, to make sure that they have that screening available in conjunction with the union to do that. Fire prevention and safety is one of those other grant programs that falls under the AFG umbrella. They're intended to provide support for fire prevention programs and firefighter health and safety research and development. So there's a current grant that has been awarded that will have spending in fiscal year 25 for an evidence management system. We have sort of been tapping into some funding to work on our lab and to get accredited. So there's another grant, it's actually funded through the Mass State Police, through the Bureau of Justice and Justice Assistance, that is supplementing or assisting us to become an accredited lab. So that's also a grant that will have some spending in fiscal year 25 that has been awarded. This Friday, Shauna submitted an application so that we could renew that funding. It's a formula grant. It's called the Coverdell Grant, and it is split amongst the police department and the fire department relative to reducing backlog in labs. So we worked with the police department to sort of submit, our needs and wants under that formula grant, and then the state passes that money through to us if they award us. The third umbrella under the AFG is called the SAFER grant, and that stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. We have a current award. It's intended to assist fire departments with staffing and deployment capabilities to respond to emergencies and ensure that communities have adequate protection from fire and fire-related hazards. So our existing grant funds 85 firefighters. So on February 25th of 2022, there was an incoming class of 90 firefighters, of which 85 were charged to the grant. The way that this application was written is that the grant does not allow for overtime costs. It does allow for fringe benefits, but sometimes dependent on whether or not a person applies for a family plan or they opt out of health insurance, it can sometimes be difficult to determine what somebody's fringe cost is going to be. So this grant is strictly covering their straight time. That will expire in February of 2025, so that will have some spending in fiscal year 25 as well. So those are the three AFG large programs that make up, a considerable amount of money that we're pursuing. Perhaps not annually. It all depends on the NOFO cycle, and I'm not quite sure how frequently they come out, if it's annually, but Shauna and I keep an eye on the announcements for grant funding to make sure that we're aware if there's a notice of funding that we could potentially be eligible for, and go through the proper channels to make sure that we can apply. We did submit a fire prevention and safety application, and in speaking with the fire marshal, there's been a lot of talk about hot work being done and sort of the protections around that, and a lot of, city contractors within the city have to be trained in hot work. So that was sort of the application that is in the pipeline that we're waiting to hear if we're going to be awarded. And it would it's training for the inspectors. I think it came up in city council during our budget hearing, just with small businesses looking to get their certificate of occupancy. So this is our hope to sort of get some of the firefighters who are currently inspectors that may have, a shorter time having been on the job, to get them well-versed in hot work and the related issues and concerns that come up with inspecting. So that, again, is a piece that we're sort of tying into training. So training of our staff, wellness of our staff, and equipment required for them to do their job are really sort of how we currently are tying the grants in with each other. Also, Department of Fire Services does also annually have what's called the equipment grant. So that's somewhat formula in that Boston has a not to exceed amount of $50,000. So generally they have certain items that are deemed high priority, medium priority, low priority. Under this most recent, we intend to apply for fiscal year 25. Under fiscal year 24, we just finished procurement. We bought lithium ion hoses. We've seen a large amount of electric vehicles, and we sort of have to change the approach to how we're managing those type of fires. And I've been told that this hose has the ability to go under the vehicle and sort of cool the battery so that the issue is not exacerbated. Under this award, we also procured incident command boxes. So for our chiefs that are responding to incidences, it's a piece of equipment that they can use to sort of better plan for dealing with an incident and responding to assist with that. So we don't have information on what we intend to apply for fiscal year 25. That hasn't come out, but again, we would speak with our training unit to see where the needs are, what we have in our operating budget, what we may need, and approach it in that sense, keeping in mind that we're more apt to get a higher amount of money by seeking high priority items. Let's see, port security, we spoke about that because it's on the docket. We currently have a port security grant that will have spending in fiscal year 25. In this application, we received $24,000 to do shipboard training. So for the first piece of the grant, we had all of our company officers, I believe our chiefs, an outside vendor, the grant paid for an outside vendor called Resolve Academy to come in and give a basic overview for somebody who might be responding to a fire that happens to be upon a vessel, so that they get basic information about the layout of the vessel and what to do and how to best respond to that. We're hoping some of our chiefs have gone to Virginia Beach for shipboard related training as well, and we're hoping to use that money in fiscal year 25 to facilitate additional trainings for that. There are also 2 grants that the department receives. They're actually Boston Police grants called the PSAP grant, which is Public Safety Answering Point, the Support and Incentive grant, and then the State 911 Training grant. So both of those grants are held by the police department, but they do allocate approximately 7% of those funds to the fire department for our fire alarms unit. So the state 911 training grant allows for overtime costs, either participant or backfill, to make sure that our fire alarm folks remain VESTA certified. And the PSAP support and incentive grant can cover various different things, whether it be our fire station alerting system. It's covered that in the past. Some of the Motorola contracts for the radio shop. So, you know, we work with the police for that, and we don't ever come before council for that because the accept and expend process is done by the police department, and then they allocate the funds to us. But those are funds that we're getting and spending and intend to spend in fiscal year 25. So those are our active grants, high level.
Great.
We do have some grant proposals in the pipeline. I think one is fairly new to the department and possibly new to our grant world. I think it's a new solicitation, so forgive me, I don't have a great deal of information in my head about it. I can get you additional information. I know Councilor Coletta asked about sort of her neighborhood with carbon monoxide issues. So the way that this grant was submitted was to fund overtime costs for firefighters to install combination smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. We currently have a program where we're installing for, you know, elderly folks. This was written in a manner so that we were going to resident occupied homes for people who may be English as a second language speaker. So sort of, you know, looking at demographics and maybe where there might be a need for the install of carbon monoxide. Because the department doesn't do installs in like apartment buildings, or there are certain codes that have to be followed. So this grant would fund the procurement of those carbon monoxide smoke alarm items. Also, the grant would fund promotional materials to give carbon monoxide safety features. And we are waiting to hear if that was awarded, but that is a grant application that we did submit. We've also submitted, it's a CARA grant. So in fiscal year 19, I believe through fiscal year 22, the department did receive CARA funds. And I just want to get the acronym for you so that I can not misspeak. So its nickname is FR-CARA, but it stands for First Responder Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. And it's funded by SAMHSA, which is part of the Department of Health and Human Services, and that's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. So under that application, we worked with former Councilor Bach to see if we might be able to set up a pilot program in the Mary Ellen McCormick projects. We have some first responders who do really great work with substance-related matters. So we have our own EAP program, but they do something called a knock and talk, where we get notification through the CAD system that there may have been an opioid-related or narcotics-related incident, whether it be an overdose or a death. And these firefighters go out during evenings, they go to the home, they speak to the family members, the individual, they assist with services, and it's been very successful. I know also at the budget hearing, the Delta car came up. It was sort of a response vehicle that, rather than have an engine or a ladder go out to, you know, an incident of an overdose or a drug-related matter, this vehicle could respond fairly quickly with people who are trained as recovery coaches to sort of address the issue and deal with the situation at hand. So that was something that was put in this grant application. It was also brought up in budget as something that, I don't recall which counselor inquired about it, but, to make sure that if needed, it's funded. So this grant sort of took that into consideration to try and get that back as a means to fund it. So I think, we also, so Coverdell, we receive a formula grant from the Mass State Police. The Bureau of Justice Assistance also put out a notice of funding for a competitive grant, the Coverdell competitive grant. I believe the maximum award is $500,000. We do intend to apply for that after speaking with the chemist in our lab. Again, that is also for backlog of cases. He has a piece of equipment that is considerably old. The grant would be a request to fund a new piece of equipment. Possibly he's having cases now that are being done peer review. He requires peer review for his casework. So there's sometimes backlog, not on his account, but to make sure that everything is signed off by another party. So potentially asking for funds to help sort of assist with that peer review. That's not been submitted yet. It's in the works. But I believe those are all our existing grants. One other, the Last Call Foundation, Kathy Crosby Bell, who lost her son. It was just the 10-year anniversary. They have a foundation for fire-related items. You can submit a proposal relative to funding. I've not fully looked at what that's funded in the past, because I've been focused on some of the bigger awards, but we recently received $100,000 to put steam units within some of the firehouses. It's thought that doing that steam after responding to a fire can release some of the toxins that an individual may be exposed to. So we received that sort of local donation if applied for on an annual basis. So I think that's everything.
Great. Thank you for that information. That's incredibly helpful, and I really appreciate all the detail. And I know it was a long list of grants. Just to confirm, we've covered all of the grants that would potentially be administered by the Boston Fire Department and come before the City Council for 2020, 2025. Either grants have been awarded or in the pipeline. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I know.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So again, really want to thank our panelists for that overview. I'd like to turn over the floor to my colleagues in order of arrival for a first round of questions to begin our discussion. I'd like to ask my colleagues to limit the time of your initial questions and the responses from our panelists to 5 minutes per counselor. The way that we can have an opportunity to follow up on the information shared in this initial round with a more interactive discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Councillor Erin Murphy.
Thank you. So I do have a question to the chair, but first I just want to thank you all for being here. And Councillor Flynn and I attended the beautiful fire memorial, and Kathy Crosby Bell was there, the mother of Michael Kennedy from the Last Call Foundation. And they spoke, because it's the annual mass where we remember those who we've lost. So the safety of our first responders, our firefighters, I know you're here from the fire department directly, but is needed. And what I've learned my past 3 years here on the council is many of the initiatives and grants we get, it's through the grants, right? So thank you for your grant writing and you bringing them forward. I know 2 of them have been brought forward in February when we'll lose the money. So I was happy to attend today to address those 2, and then 1 recently came, but making sure we pass those so that money can go to the much needed training and the overview of the 3 grants that we're addressing today. You already did a good job overviewing them, so I'm happy to support them when they come to the floor. And thank you for going over all the grants. And that's, if I can, to the chair, if you could explain why we went over other grants that aren't on the docket. I came prepared and knew of the 3 grants. And is this then when other grants come to the floor, we won't hold hearings? Because we
Correct.
don't have a quorum. And that's something we've never done where we just go over all of them. So I do appreciate that you went over all of them.
Yep.
That was a lot of work. But to be quite honest, I after the 3 that we were here to discuss, so if you could just explain your thought process, knowing, because I don't want to support something that then means we don't have the ability later as a council, especially where there's so few of us here today to hear the important work they do. And I just want to go on the record, I've always supported all the grants that have come to us from all of our first responders, so it's not in any way saying I don't want to support them. But I do think we take away our power and the ability to learn. It's important that we understand the importance of, the grants that you do go after, and if more you can get for our department. Thank you again for all you do around that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for the question. Essentially, this is not a hearing, this is a meeting. So yes, the 3 that were headlined, the 3 grants that were headlined on the docket, is because they're right in front of our council right now, so we'll be voting on those soon. But the point of this meeting was to address all of the grants, so that way we don't have to ask fire department to come down every few weeks to discuss it, and also just for the sake of our councilor colleagues also, that way they don't have to do that. So it's a new it's a new thing that we're trying here in the Public Safety Committee, yeah, I think.
And can I ask then, you do not come every 2 weeks with grants? That's not something I've ever
No, if I could
you
just,
please,
if I
thank
could
you.
just add just a little bit to the context here, thank you, Chairman. Most of these grants, the 3 that, we're talking today about are grants that have been before the council before. All of the other ones that Julie covered, at least 98% of them, have also been before the council. So the fire department, in my experience, has been doing like the repetitive things every year, the same grants, the same applications. There's been very little kind of stepping outside the box, as it were, in terms of grants. I think a lot has to do with, they didn't have the staffing. So, recently, I'm a year, Julie's just under a year, and Shauna is probably around 6 months. So, there's been 1 or 2 that have not come before the council, but everything that we've talked about just previous to this has been repetitively coming up before the council each year.
Thank you. And thank you again for the work you do. I appreciate you all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will pass it over to my colleague, Councillor Hedflin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Julie and to Shauna and to Kevin for the professional work that you were doing and for the exceptional leadership you're providing in the city. So I had a chance to read through these dockets 0910, 0378, 0377. So let me just ask on docket number 0377, $1.6 million for hazardous materials, hazardous material response teams. How will that fund, how will those funds directly support the fire department? I know you highlighted it, but I just want to get a little bit more information. How will it specifically support the firefighters that interact with hazardous material, maybe on a frequent basis, such as you see it at the South Boston waterfront, where there's a lot of life science buildings, or in the south end you see some, or maybe in some of these colleges and universities and laboratories. Just wanted to get your thoughts about that.
Sure. So we have a captain of the hazmat response team who I have worked closely with, sort of going through some of the funding requests, so he has more information as to what the department needs so that the folks are well equipped. Those that are responding to those types of situations are well equipped, safe, and able to adequately respond. One of the examples that were procured is dive suits. And I initially asked for some additional information because it didn't sound like it related to the hazmat because it's dive related. But I got information back from Deputy Chief Shea indicating that, you know, there is exposure to hazardous materials and that there is, so the NFPA is the compliance that needs to be followed by the department or recommended to be followed. So essentially providing this dive gear for individuals who have to go into the water could expose them potentially to hazardous materials. So oftentimes I'm working with the department on what their needs might be relative to adequate hazmat response, and they're working on procurement, whether it be the procurement of a particular piece of equipment that would help monitor. I know they use RIDs, which are radioactive isotope devices, to detect hazardous materials. In the past, there's been procurement of sort of samples so that they can facilitate training. Other grants, possibly not this one, but under the Secure the City grant for the police department, they've procured backpacks for use at the marathon, which are RID detectors that can be carried on an individual's body. There's training that goes in hand with the procurement of that equipment. So again, I oftentimes have to rely on the subject matter experts as to what they need, but he is very good at ensuring that the items are relative to the hazmat response team so that they can adequately respond and have the equipment that they need to be able to do that safely, efficiently, and successfully.
Excellent. Again, want to say thank you to the entire team in the financial department for the incredible work you guys are doing. You're representing the city well, you're representing your department very well, and we're so fortunate to have dedicated professional city employees like yourselves working for the residents of Boston. Mr. Chair, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. I'll turn the floor over to my colleague from District 3, John Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the panel very much for all you do for our city. We appreciate it. Looking at these grants, especially the three that are highlighted with regards to hazmat and more training, we know that's important and we see the results every day. In Dorchester just last week, I believe there was a Mayday called, and we were able, because of the training, to get that firefighter safely off the roof before further injury or other serious concerns happen. So we do see it pay off in the real world, and I think that is something to be commended. So I have no further questions at the time. Fully support the grants going through and all others in the future as well, and thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. I'll turn over the floor to my colleague from District 8, Councillor Durkin.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I'm grateful to be here and get to know more about the work that you all are doing and the grants that that I'm going to be proud to support at our next council meeting. And just wanted to share my support for, you know, as the chair of another committee that has a lot of dockets coming through, I appreciate the role to be able to expedite some of these grants towards where they need to go, and appreciate us being forward thinking and looking at these grants. It is a lot to take in, so I look forward to reviewing some of the knowledge that you bestowed upon us about some of the grants that are coming towards us. And I know a lot of this stuff is technical, so we're not always meant to understand it, but I appreciate the leadership of the fire department and everything that you guys are doing to ensure safety of our city workforce, and also, you know, in these things that are more technical, I do defer to those with that expertise. So really appreciate your leadership. In terms of the grants that that we have before us today, and I know you went exhaustively into sort of what's upcoming. Was just curious what the this looks like in terms of like the federal, what comes from the state government versus the federal government, and how, and, you know, in terms of timing, once these are, just a basic question, once these are coming before our, is the money already there, or is it, oftentimes we're accepting it prior to it landing in the account? What does that look like?
So the three that are being highlighted today, the port security grants are federal in nature, and they're reimbursable in nature as well, which generally means a contract is awarded for a certain dollar amount. The items are procured through the procurement process, and then a reimbursement request or a drawdown. We report what we've expended, and then we draw down those funds to request the money. So the majority of the funds, I believe, if not all of them, are reimbursable in nature for the fire department. Oftentimes with a local donation, like the Last Call Foundation, if they were to award us funds based on a proposal submitted, that could be a check received from the donor. It gets deposited into the suspense account. It's heard before the council. Once we have an accept and expend, we can spend that money down. But the majority of the funds that we receive are reimbursable in nature. The other two grants that are before, that are highlighted today are from their state funding. So they're earmarks, legislative earmarks, that the state legislator has sort of set aside these particular funds for particular types of units, or, you know, particular attention to a particular unit, so that the funding can only be used for those purposes. And those two, they give us a contract amount, which is basically a not to exceed amount. The spending occurs, and then we seek reimbursement for those items.
And just curious, in terms of the state funding, has that gone up over the years, or is it stayed pretty flat?
Well, it went down. What? Yeah. So there was a 9C reduction, which is when the legislator takes a look at sort of all of the earmarks. Some of that money is funded through, it's my understanding, insurance company payouts and premiums. So those lines, I'm sure, I'm not sure they were able to reduce, but there was a 9C reduction, and all of the funding under one particular line item was split statewide, 50%. I was advised from my point of contact at the Department of Fire Services that the allocations will go back to 100%, but we won't know that until we get a contract. But that is based, the legislature sort of indicates the amount of money allocated to Boston or Cambridge or whoever receives money listed in that line item.
And that's really helpful. I think overall our state funding has gone down in every area, but it's helpful to differentiate between what the state can control and what they can't control, based on what line item it's coming from. So I know we're just getting through, I guess some could argue we're just getting into the budget, and others could argue we're just getting out of budget, but I think when we approach this next year, it'll be interesting to see sort of what trends exist. But really grateful for your time and look forward to supporting these 3 grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Durkin. I will turn it over to my council colleague from District 6, Ben Weber.
Chair, I believe Councilor Fitzgerald had a point. I'm happy to cede.
Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for the interruption. I forgot to mention, I did have a conversation with Local 718, and they are supportive of this grant as well, so just want to make sure we got that on the record. Thank you for that opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Councilor Weber.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking to us today, to the panel, and for everything you do. I guess just a couple follow-up questions. So do you have like the total dollar figure on the 9C cuts?
So there were 2 grants that it affected. So our training grant, bear with me.
I guess, so for the 9C cuts, did those just go to 2 of the 3 grants up for us today, and that's it, or did it go to some of the other grants you discussed?
No, just the particular grants that are, there was a question asked during the budget hearing as to why there was a reduction in the training grant. And I'm not sure, Kevin had the information before him at the time, but it was based on a 9C cut. So the training grant is usually 2.25 million, I believe. That was cut in half by 50%. But I was also advised that, say, a small town fire department in Western Mass maybe got $50,000, and they were reduced down to 25. So it was across the board, a 9C cut. It did not just affect Boston. It affected all of the cities and towns who are listed in that earmark. But the hazmat grant, a portion of that money, I have learned, comes from 2 different legislative lines. The large amount that funds, the 1.4 million, was untouched. But our other allocation of 225 or so was cut down to 118,000.
Okay. And I guess, do you have any opinion about putting us on the same footing as small towns? Because we're talking about if 50% here is a lot more than.
Right. Well, I guess their logic was, if yes, it's all relative. I mean, we were hoping to procure some, response vehicles with the funds, and, with supply chain and getting items, we're bound by the fiscal year, and it can be difficult sometimes to get what we need in the time manner that we need it, just with everything going on. But they likened it to, if that department has 1 truck and they were intending to buy another truck with their money, they now have to do without. So in the grand scheme of things, it was difficult, because not only the Training Academy grant is for the upkeep of that facility in Moon Island to make sure that, things are not falling apart, but also the particular, the training for the entire force. Not only was that there were 9C reduction in that funding, but it was also sort of predetermined to use that allocation to procure SCBAs and use the grant funds as opposed to operating funds to sort of supplement what we had in our operating budget to procure. So that was difficult for the department, but we're hoping that with next year's funding and having this meeting to sort of discuss what these earmarks are, what they represent, they're generally, the legislature determines what these funds can be used for and should be used for. So hoping that it will be a more streamlined process moving forward with spending. So it was difficult, but it was a statewide reduction, and there wasn't much that we could do.
Oh, okay. And then the port security grant, that's primarily for like bulletproof vests, or is this stuff to protect firefighters responding where there's an active shooter?
So no, that was what these particular grants funded. That was what we had requested. The port security grants are for protection of the port and like soft target areas. So the current grant that we're spending, port security, is for shipboard training, which trains some of our officers and higher level employees on dealing with a fire that may occur on a vessel in the port. So the grants are national disaster preparedness grants, and their main focus is to target cybersecurity or to protect, crowded areas within the Port of Boston. So that's the overarching goal and priority of the grant. These 2 that are before the committee happen to have been used to procure ballistic gear for ASHA response in the port.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Councilor Gabriela Coletta Zapata, you have the floor. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank my colleagues for their questions. Those were my 2 questions, Councilor Weber. Congratulations. But no, really, thank you for your work. Clearly, you are so knowledgeable about all of this, and so really grateful that you're here to educate us on all of this, all of you. So thank you. I do intend to support all of these, and I will keep it brief because I literally have no questions. So thank you all.
Great. Do any of my other, Councilor Weber, Councilor Fitzgerald? No? All right. We're just going to check if we have anyone in the public for public testimony. If we do, we'll listen to those. If we do not, I'll turn it over to you all if you want to say any final statements or words. I think we do. Okay, at this moment, we will move forward with public testimony. When your name is called, please come down to one of the 2 podiums and state your name, neighborhood, and/or organization affiliation. Please speak into the microphone and keep your comments to 2 minutes. I now have John Bro. Please come over.
Thank you, Chairman Santana. Thank you for the councilors to be here and giving support to the fire department and all the good things that they do. And priority-wise, safety is the priority in this city, and I appreciate everything that's done here. I have many friends from the fire department, including family members. Some have suffered with these breathing conditions that have gone on for years, and anything we can do in the 21st century to make it safer for these firefighters, I'm here to give full support. And these dockets, 0378, 377, and there was one on top, 0910. So I appreciate these, so I could read up on all this stuff, and I'd give support. Thank you, Cora, for allowing me to get in there at the last second, and do a good job over there, Mr. Chairman. Staying with the safety. We really need this stuff. I have other safety suggestions, but that's different than the fire department, so I guess I should hold off on that, and I'll talk with you in your office, hopefully, and go to the next step. Thank you, councilors.
Great. Thank you so much, John, and thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you, Mr. Provenzano.
Central staff has informed me that there's currently no one signed up for virtual public testimony. So with that, before I give my special thanks to our panelists today, would like to turn it over to you all if you want to say any final words.
No, I'd just like to thank you all for your time today and interest in the subject matter. Julie really did an amazing job relaying all this information, detailed information about the grants. If I could just tie back to your intention of maybe reviewing all of the other ones, again, what the fire department has traditionally done has been a carbon copy year after year. So even though some of these may sound new, they have been before the body before, and accept and expend on many of these has occurred throughout probably the past decade and a half, I would suspect. We certainly are available anytime to answer any questions. We appreciate the support of the City Council. The times we're in, the budget that we recommended and what was submitted to the council is different in terms of dollar amounts. So we rely on these funds to fill in some of those gaps to ensure, like all of this today is basically training, and the safety of the firefighters is really at the paramount of everything that the fire department does to protect the citizens of Boston. So we appreciate the support of the council.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to all 3 of you. Thank you, Julie. I mean, I learned a lot today, and I think as one of my colleagues mentioned, you're so knowledgeable on these grants, so I really appreciate you educating us on all of this. So I want to thank our panelists, members of the public, and my city council colleagues for your participation in today's meeting. The committee meeting on all the City of Boston grants administered by the Boston Fire Department, including dockets number 0910, number 0378, and docket number 0377, is adjourned. Thank you.